you think it's natural to continue being attracted to the same person?
How you would stay attracted to each other is you stay curious about each other. As your life is evolving and changing, what happens is you should be learning new things about your partner as your journey's going on. The person they are today is going to be different to the person they were 10 years ago and 5 years ago. So the novelty can still exist if you take an interest in the person that they're becoming. It's like if you can only eat one meal, you want it to at least be a nice meal.
Hi guys, Yasmin here from Khalij Times and welcome to another episode of UAE Trailblazers. Today we have a very special guest. You may recognize her because she has been going viral on Instagram and other social media platforms for her talk on dating, marriage, gender roles, and gender dynamics. Today we have Sadia Khan, who is a psychologist and a relationship expert who's going to tell us how to build a healthy relationship and how to navigate the crazy world of modern dating. Sadia, welcome to the show.
That's me. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. Thank you so much. Let's get right into it. We're going to dive deep. What do you think men should know about women and women should know about men in order to ensure a healthy relationship, not just one that withstands the test of time, but also one that blossoms and thrives?
I think what both genders need to know about one another is that their childhood creates a template of how they like to give and receive love and how they like to resolve conflict and how they like to apologize. These are the three things, like how they like to see love, how they like to apologize, and how they resolve conflict. Now, that childhood template means that no matter how much you push or pull, until you understand their triggers, your relationship can always feel a little bit like a roller coaster. But when you take the time to understand that they may have pre-existing triggers due to some experiences in their childhood or some experiences with their parents that makes them hypersensitive to abandonment or might make them hypersensitive to silent treatment, they don't enjoy it, or makes them yell more than they should, you'll realize that their behavior is not entirely personal. It's not because of you. It might be because of something they're struggling with. And then you'll be able to look at your partner in a more compassionate and understanding manner and resolve conflict and then have a more enduring, long-lasting relationship. But without that perspective, unfortunately, every fight feels like a thunderstorm and every resolution feels like pulling teeth, when it could be a lot easier if you speak the language that they understood when they were children.
Wow. So does that mean that we should be asking each other's what each other's traumas are on the first date? How do we navigate this?
We should be asking ourselves what our traumas are. That's a better way to do it. Is if you ask yourself, what is it? How do I like to, how much separation can I handle with my partner? Do I like to be really separate or do I like more closeness? How do I resolve conflict? Do I prefer to just leave the fight and have some time out, or do I need to fix it right there and then? Do I yell and get personal? Do I say mean things? Or am I somebody that holds everything in and then eventually explodes? What do I do? And then how can I give my partner almost a psychological manual on what they can do to make our relationship a lot smoother, and you meet them in that same place? I know it sounds really boring and really clinical.
It's so interesting.
But if you do that, it does make life a lot easier for you.
So when should you then express those traumas? If you know them yourself and you've done the work, when is a good time to be like, listen, I'm really sensitive to you not texting for like 5 hours. I'm really sensitive to you going out with your female friends or your male friends. When should that conversation come up?
When your self-esteem is high enough. Yeah, the moment your self-esteem is high enough, what it will do is allow you to express yourself in a manner that tells people what you prefer and what you don't want. And they are most welcome to meet your needs. But if they're not, we don't have to yell, scream, force anybody. But the moment you have that level of self-esteem where it's not about holding on to this person, I don't care if I put this person off or like make them hate me or they get off me. It's more, I want a healthy relationship. And I can only do it by expressing this. Now, if I live in fear that I'm going to put them off, my self-esteem is not high enough to create a constructive relationship anyway.
Right.
So it's going to end at some point anyway.
Because
you're not confident that the true you will match the true him. So if you have a level of self-esteem where it's like, I'm not trying to impress you, I just want a healthy relationship. In order for that to happen, you just have to be aware of this, and I'm happy to meet your needs. If you live tiptoeing around that, your self-esteem is probably not high enough to be in a strong relationship anyway.
And in that case, also, basically, when you express what you need, there's a risk of someone not accepting it,
Yeah.
right? So there's a risk of like, I'm sorry, if you don't accept it, I'm going to have to leave.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not that they have, it's a deal breaker. It's not that you say you have to do this. It's just that this is what I need because of this. It's not personal. This is what I need. And what some people do is they think that boundaries means pushing people out and, blocking people after the first conversation. I told him I like this. He said no. And now I'm done with him and I'm so strong. That's not what really boundaries is. It's explaining to people how you like to be loved and how you like to be treated, explaining how you potentially can love and treat people and seeing if it's compatible. But it's not setting ultimatums. Yeah, it's more of a case of it should be drawing people into you and creating intimacy, not pushing people away.
100%. That's great. So let's get into dating first, and then we'll do long-term relationships afterwards. So dating.
Yeah.
There has been a study, I think there was a study in 2022 talking about how there's going to be 441 million active users of online matchmaking and online dating.
Okay.
What do you think? A lot of people complain about online dating and online matchmaking. However, it's growing. People are online. What do you think? Is there anything wrong with online dating, or what makes it difficult to meet people online? Why are people complaining about it? However, it's still growing.
Right. Well, here's the problem with online dating and with any kind of dating is the level of commitment you have towards your partner will depend on how much you invest in alternatives, not actually how great your partner is. So what I mean by this is if I make a decision to love and adore, just be with my husband and avoid alternatives and focus on that person, then that commitment can become something.
Right.
But without that mindset, it will always be diluted. The connection will always be diluted. Now, the problem with online dating is it makes you focus on alternatives. So couples that break up or couples that end up cheating are couples that will always imagine what life with an alternative would be like. So they'd be like, I wish I was with a man who's more mature, or a man would say, I wish I was with a girl who is younger, or something like that. They're constantly imagining the alternatives. Now, those couples are more at risk of breaking up. Online dating pushes that mentality far more.
Right.
So that's why I don't see an alternative, to be honest. When clients always come to me and ask me, like, how do I meet someone? I wish I knew. I really wish I knew. And I really think I should start like some kind of matchmaking. I think I should start a community. I wish I had more time because I'd be great because I'd know your background and all this stuff. And but unfortunately, I only have two hands. But if I did, I always say it's not online dating that's the problem. It's your mindset. Are you continuously aware of alternatives, or do you try and be sequential? Focus on that one person, then understand if they're compatible, understand that, and don't mind taking off alternatives for a little while.
Yeah.
And then you'll discover the outcome faster. If they're right for you, you figure that out straight away. If they're wrong for you, you should figure that out straight away. But by diluting it and seeing 3, 4, 5 different people all the time and going straight back on the app, you don't know who is the compatible partner. And that's what I think is a problem with alternatives.
And I think it becomes a game because also there's an addictive kind of aspect to it because there's the swiping and there's the chatting and there's the online kind of dopamine hit and all of that kind of stuff for online dating. I don't think it makes a healthy... Some people... I have friends who have been online dating for a long time and I feel like they're addicted to the actual act of having the app.
They get addicted to novelty.
Right.
Yeah, so what I mean by that is they get into the habit of the beginning stages of relationships and forget the habits of the long-term parts of relationships. And the beginning stages is dressing up, going on a date, knowing what to talk about, putting on your best face. The long-term parts are like, just maybe sitting at home, spending time with his parents, your parents, the boring stuff.
Yeah.
And so what happens is there is an addiction to novelty and an addiction to the beginning stages of relationship and a repelling kind of response to the maintenance stage of relationships. And that's the problem with online dating. And by the way, I'm not saying this as a negative thing. I don't want to one day come up with an app and be like, by the way, join my... And then have someone...
Join my app, guys. It's
and
better.
Then this comes out. But it's not that I'm against it. It's I'm against the mindset and the culture it creates.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's get into the actual dating part. So say a man and a woman are going on a date. What are some red flags that a man should look for and some red flags that a woman should look for? Because that has been talked about so much online, and it's very confusing.
I would genuinely say that if when you're in the beginning stages, have a look at what their patterns are. People always focus on their competition in terms of other people.
Okay.
Your competition is their patterns, their childhood, their previous experience before you. Now, if they say to you, every ex was so traumatic, chances are, like, every ex is terrible, every ex is bad, every ex was this. Let's say, for example, I say every ex cheated on me. Then what you're getting is an idea that I'm naive. There's a part of me that ignores red flags, goes in blindly and doesn't spot it, and then, gets hurt. Or if I say to a man says every woman has used me in this way or that way, then you get into the part they're not good at selection. So what happens is if they come to you with a long list of all their traumatic experiences, although that might happen, I'm not saying don't stay away from people who've been through that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying stay away from people who don't reflect that they're the common denominator.
So how should you approach somebody and ask them what their patterns are? Should you just outright ask them?
You say, what is a common reason that your relationships end? Or what is a complaint that most partners have had about you?
Oh, that's a good
question. And so what they might say is, they always say I'm too busy with work. Or they might say that I'm a bit too clingy. And so when they see there's a consistency, you're kind of encouraging them to reflect on what they bring to the relationship.
Yeah.
And then that's something that they need to work on. And I make relationships sound like really heavy work.
Yeah.
It's not really.
It's serious business,
it's actually
guys.
really lovely once you understand all those things, and you realize, because then what happens is when you realize it's a pattern, you no longer blame the person in front of you. You recognize that there is something in your selection process or your maintenance process that's causing this, and you can take more accountability.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of self-reflection before actually going on these dates.
Yes.
I mean, you should really know yourself before entering the dating market anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So when dating in the long run, people say that you shouldn't settle.
Right.
Okay. Is there a time that you should settle?
Always. Every day. And because this is the problem I see with a lot of people who are single for a very long time. And they say they don't want to settle. What I say to them is, look, there's a difference between settling and having an accurate perception of your level. And people get a little bit offended by this. So, for example, I might meet an older man and he really, really wants a young girl, really, really wants that. And I just said, look, it's not settling. And he's like, I don't want to be with a woman around my age or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's not settling if that's the pool of women that are interested in you.
Yes.
If you have to beg someone to be with you, that means you're requiring them to settle. But if you have an accurate perception, what people think settling is going for someone below them. But really, sometimes that might be your real level.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have an inflated perception of what we want, but not what we can access. What a true reflection is have a look at the pool of the people that show you investment.
Right.
And this has been really, really affected by short-term dating and hookup culture. What happens is the men and women that we might hook up with are completely different to the men and women that we invest in. The problem is men and women get used to who they've been hooking up with and thinking, I don't want to settle for that guy. I've been with a guy that's had a Lamborghini before. Oh, I don't want to be with this girl. I've been with a girl that's been... I'm like, but how have they treated you?
Right.
Think about the people that invest in you. Think about the people who give you love and attention. That's your accurate pool of selection. The people that you've hooked up with here and then, gone on a date with here and then, if that's inflating what you want in a partner, that's not an accurate perception of reality. So it's only settling if you've had a lot better in the past and they've genuinely been dedicated and invested in you. But if you haven't had that before and it's just something in your imagination, is it really settling, or you have an inflated version of what you expect?
Of what you expect, and also of maybe what you are?
What you are. And I don't mean to sound mean.
that sounds mean.
It sounds super mean. But if you're having, look, I don't mean to be rude, but I had, for example, I might have somebody, and this is no offense to anything, but this is how the reality of life.
Okay.
If a man is a lot shorter than the average woman, or if a woman is a lot bigger than the average man, if they're saying, I want this high value thing is a real big issue.
It is.
I want a high value woman and stuff. And I said, but look, if you are really, really, really like not doing so well financially, and or let's say, for example, you're not so tall, unfortunately, these things is going to limit your pool. Yes. Focus on your pool rather than trying to, get money to get somebody higher, or using, as women, sometimes they might use sex to get somebody above their station. Stick to your station. focus on that and focus on the good things of the people that are invested in you rather than the bad things in the people that are invested in you.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good, because people have been taking a kind of negative turn with this and just looking about what's missing.
Most people that are single, there's so many people that are really like them and invested in them. But they just neglect those people and exaggerate the nice things in the people they like.
Yeah.
But really try and look at the good qualities in the people that are already showing you love and affection.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about how gold diggers or money. Okay.
They're
Finances.
my favorite human beings, by the way. I seem to talk about them all the time. I think I want to
shout
be
out to gold diggers.
I think I'm just jealous. I think there's a part of me that goes to work and be like, oh, God,
why aren't I a gold digger?
But yes, go ahead.
So, okay, we're going to talk about gold diggers, but also, for example, a lot of men complain that women here, maybe in Dubai, UAE, etc., GCC, are looking for their pocket, looking for their cash. However, at the same time, a woman who's serious and who wants to like ensure a long-term, relationship is looking for somebody who can provide for her, right? So this is a kind of an important conversation to have, right? How does one navigate, as a female, navigate this conversation, especially when you're first dating somebody without looking like a gold digger?
Okay.
And what kind of advice can you give them?
Okay, no, it's a very tricky fine line, by the way, because there's some men that live like in fear of gold diggers, and there's women that are like, I'm not a gold digger, but I'm also not going to date a bum, and that's not unfair of her in any way. So here's how you kind of navigate that. The gold digger woman is the woman that actually brings nothing to the table and is looking for a man to save her entire life. Right. That might include even paying her parents' bills. That might include covering her every single part. A woman who's a good woman and is looking for somebody on the same intellectual and financial level as her is somebody that doesn't want you to save her in any way, shape, or form, but she would like somebody on the same or above what she's used to in her life and what she's created in her life. Now, if in her life she's got a good education, good career, comes from a good family, she isn't incompatible with somebody who's not on the same level. She would be incompatible with a man who hasn't got a job or isn't going to provide for her because she's been able to do it.
Right.
But if you take somebody who's never achieved anything, has been at home all day, every day, never got an education, hasn't really got any family values, but then is looking for someone to save her because in that sense she's traditional, that's your gold digger. So the gold digger is not that successful woman she doesn't have to be major successful, but just a traditional woman who wants to start a family and wants someone she can rely on. That's not a gold digger. That's just somebody who wants start a good life. The gold digger is somebody who wants you to save her from the misery of her own life or the burdens of her own life. So you as a man should be able to make that distinction, and you as a woman should know you're not a gold digger when you're asking for that. So don't be scared to say it.
Don't be scared to say it.
Don't be scared to say it. Be like, this is what I expect. This is what I'm used to. This is what I've built for myself. And more so than anything, this is what I bring to the table myself. The gold digger will probably be used to it because she's managed to do it with other men, but she doesn't bring anything outside of physical relationships. She doesn't bring anything outside of her physicality. The problem is the men go for the girl that's just being physical with them, get screwed over 1,000 times and be like, when it's an old man with of course that is the vibe. You just got to be more intelligent with it. Be more intellectually intelligent with it. When a woman is coming to you because all women want a good life. All of them. Every single one. But there's some women that can be bought and some women who can't be bought. The woman who can't be bought is one that is able to achieve those things on her own, but is now ready to do it as a family.
100%. And I think what you said was so true when you know where you're coming from in terms of intention. I'm not a gold digger, but I'm 1, 2, 3. Or for the man even, like I'm not looking to be just like a bank account and that's it. I think both have to really know thyself.
Know yourself. The only men that tend to be afraid of that are the ones that keep falling for the gold diggers. And keep having that. Because why? Because they are too focused on physical beauty and physical relations. So they keep getting ruined from it and then labeling all women as that.
But, do you think it's also like they like to be needed in that way?
The thing is, when they have a woman that's broken, a part of them feels fulfilled and feels like, okay, I know that the only way to keep her is I can fix her life. And one who's already fixed is like, how do I get her to depend on me? So there's a part of them that their self-esteem grows from fixing her life. But you got to remember, those people who use you to be fixed are not actually attracted to the person who gives them everything. We like to know that the person, we earn what we get.
Yep.
When a man just gives it to you frivolously or has to save you from every problem, you start to see him as a bit stupid because you can manipulate him too easily.
And then you lose respect.
You lose respect. We can't love a man we can manipulate.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
super interesting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about when you're first dating. Men tend to accept a lot of things. Okay, they accept the way you dress, they accept the way you talk, they accept the way you socialize. Oh, she's so social. She loves talking to everybody.
Yeah.
But then somewhere down the line, it stops.
Yeah.
It stops. It starts being like, why are you wearing that? And why are you talking to him like, or why are you doing this, et cetera, et cetera. So why does that happen? I mean, I don't understand. I feel like I get a lot of questions from my friends. We all talk about this kind of thing, and I don't want it to be just from a female perspective. I also want the males to understand themselves from this conversation.
And by the way, it happens in both ways. A lot of times women are really attracted to the funny guy who's so handsome, and then afterwards they're like, why are you so handsome?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Like, get rid of your
Why are you
muscles.
so funny?
Yeah. So who's laughing, you clown? Like, you get like that. So we all do it.
Yeah.
The reason being is in the beginning stages, we're not in love, so we're not vulnerable, and therefore our insecurities are hidden. So in the beginning stages of most relationships, we bring the part of ourselves that we can bring to friends and to colleagues, which is a part of us that is confident, it's not vulnerable, and it's not afraid of being hurt. With my friends, I'm sure with your friends, there's a completely different mentality. You don't care if they go out late, get drunk, come back. You don't have a problem with that because they're not tapping into your insecurities, because you're not totally vulnerable and they can't hurt you the same way. The moment feelings develop, what happens is we start to lose control of our feelings. We start to become more vulnerable. We start risk being hurt, and therefore we start to become more controlling. So really what we might have tapped into is a part of them that is now attaching and now afraid that they're going to lose you because there may have been some pre-existing trauma, and therefore we always try and control when we are afraid.
Yes.
And this is men and women, by the way.
Yeah.
We
This
all
is
do
men.
it.
I mean, look, I'm asking the questions like from a female perspective, obviously.
but it's all of us.
But all of us.
Yeah.
And we all have those vulnerabilities, and we all have that.
So in the beginning, the way you dress, how you social, where you go out, seems so attractive. But the moment it's like, okay, I could get hurt by this behavior.
Yeah.
She could leave me because of this behavior. I could get abandoned. Then it becomes, where are you going? What time are you coming? So on and so forth.
Oh,
yeah.
So interesting. And that's how.
So it's actually a signal of love.
It's
I know
a
that's
signal
so
of
weird,
love.
but it's a signal of love that has not been well established as a child and has not been it combined with low self-esteem.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's love, but it's kind of
Like this, what is it called? Distorted.
distorted.
A little
love.
bit distorted.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so let's talk about relationships.
Yes.
So we've talked about red flags, but what about some green flags in happy couples? What are they doing right
Yes.
in order to, there's relationships that have been going on for 20, 30 years, families who have generations of
Amazing.
love and kids and everything.
Amazing. I really like this question, by the way, because I'm always getting told, like, what's the problem? And then it's like,
What's the issue?
like, it's so negative. But here's what people are doing right. Firstly, they do have a head start from their childhood. They naturally have a head start. And what I mean by that is they came from an environment that genuinely, they learned to trust people early. There was some exposure to parents and caregivers that led them to believe that they're worthy of love and they can trust people with love. And so they come with that template. The second thing I would say is they have a mentality that accepts monotony. And what I mean by that is they don't expect long-lasting love to look like new, novel attraction. They can make that really big distinction. They know that that novel excitement from early stages of attraction is different to long-lasting committed love. So when they make that transition, they just see it as the next step of their journey, and they're willing to make that progress. Whereas other people get so addicted to the novel attraction, or they believe that's the only way to express love, that as they go into the more smooth stage, they get uncomfortable and they feel unloved by that stage, and therefore they seek new relationships.
Yeah.
So they're really appropriate. They really understand novelty, like that novelty isn't essential. But the main thing is that they do is they're attuned and aligned to their partner. And what I mean by this is they're very curious about their partner as a human being, and they they develop intimacy like that. So they want to know their partner's family, they want to know their background, they want to know how their day went. They take an invested interest in their partner. And through that connection, what happens is they start to believe that the relationship has its own identity. So anything that damages their partner damages the relationship, so damages them.
Okay.
They see it connected.
It's very interconnected.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt their partner because that hurts the relationship, and therefore that hurts me.
Yeah.
Whereas other partners remain individuals.
Two independent
People who are either at competition with each other, they dislike each other, they're trying to win against each other. They don't see hurting the other person as a form of hurting themselves.
I love that.
Yeah, so they're not interconnected and they're not attuned to each other's emotions. Whereas couples that last, they don't want to hurt their partner, and hurting their partner is actually hurting them because it affects the relationship.
Yeah.
And making their partner feel good is a form of making themselves feel good.
Right.
So selfishly loving that partner becomes a selfish act, because I know that loving them, giving them a massage or giving them some food, it makes me happy. They take joy in their partners. So they do these very simple things where they stay connected as much as possible, and they try and replace criticisms with praise. What I mean by that is, if a million things, your husband is going to annoy you in a million ways.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the things that you like about them and the things that you don't like about them, you attribute it to perhaps stress or perhaps their childhood, or you make external explanations. People that fall apart, they think every problem their partner has is permanent and it's overall. Oh, you're just selfish. Oh, you're just this.
It's like a label.
It's a label. Yeah. So they exaggerate the negative. So the ones that have happy relationships, they just follow simple things, and it keeps their relationship alive. They don't do anything special. They don't go on holidays every day.
I was going to say, I love the part that you said about the boring, the monotonous, because people don't, they're scared of it. They're scared when the relationship gets a little bit comfortable.
No, they get scared of it because they're thinking either
someone's doing something.
Yeah, this feels too easy.
It's too easy.
But they genuinely understand that life isn't going to be the yacht parties and going to Miami. That's not what life is.
Yes.
They realize that life is responsibility, life is connection, and life is simplicity. And because of that, they rather retain the relationship than take the risk of new ones.
Amazing. And I like the, you know how you're talking about the praise versus the criticism. I think also when you criticize, I feel like it's important to say, like, for example, you were being selfish in that moment. Yeah. Not saying to someone, you are selfish.
Yeah. You don't make a generalized statement. Yeah. More so than anything, you turn your criticism into an instruction. If you say you're being let's say, for example, they don't clean up after themselves. Instead of saying you're so selfish and lazy, you can say, I would really appreciate if you just clean up after yourself. I've only got 2 hands. You turn every criticism, because there's an instruction. There's a need behind every criticism. Explain the criticism, and they have something to work with. They might ignore it. Yeah. But at least you've given them the instruction, and then you can measure whether or not they're trying to connect with you. Yeah. But if you don't give them the instruction and just give them terrible labels, they've got nothing to work with. Yeah.
That's true. Well, at least you give them a solution. And then you measure it later. So another study said that around 41% of divorced Gen Xers and 29% of divorced boomers attributed their divorces to financial issues, financial disagreements. How does one avoid or prevent financial disagreements in relationships? Because that could really tip the balance, the power scale in a relationship.
Find out what finances means to them. Yeah. Now, what I mean by this is, look at where some people have trauma related to finances. Some people grew up in a single parent home where they saw that they're getting evicted every time finances weren't due. So when finances are weaker, they see it as the end of the world, the end of the relationship. Other people grew up with parents that were okay with, like, whatever you want to spend. So they never saw it as a selfish act to overspend. They just saw that as a form of love and expression and generosity and so on and so forth. So find out what finances means to them, and then find out how much are they valuing finances above other areas of the relationship. What I mean by this is, if you're going to be with someone for 50 years, there's going to be times where finances are good, finances are bad, finances are stable, whatever it is. Now, is the finances the main glue of the relationship? And now, the finances might not be the issue. It might be the fact that because of finances, now we can't afford childcare, or now the kids are going into bad schools, or now I'm overburdened. So think about the consequences of the finances and see if you can, reel those in. But really figure out what is it about the finances is causing problems. Now, if you have a partner that is upset about finances because they can't enjoy extra luxuries, then the partner and you may not have been compatible to begin with. Okay. But if they're upset because the finances is now meaning that they're overwhelmed, they can't look after themselves, you can't have a sex life anymore because you're so drained with work, it's because the finances is spilling over into other areas of the relationship. So before you label it as, the finances went wrong and so we broke up, figure out, was it actually the finances itself, or was it spilling over into other areas of the relationship? And how can you manage those other areas so the finances stays within finances and doesn't spill over to other areas of the connection?
Okay, so basically it means that what is your relationship to finances and how are you expressing it in this relationship?
Exactly.
Right, great. There's a saying that people say, which is like, for a female, it's like, my money is my money, and your money is our money, my money is my money.
Honey.
What do you think of that statement?
I see nothing. I'm Muslim, so we were raised to believe that. Yeah, so it's very much like, the woman's money is her money and his money is her. But here's what I think is the problem with that mentality. It totally makes sense, but at the same time, we have to then compensate through other areas. It's not a one-way street. It shouldn't be unilateral. That money is all mine and you do nothing. Now, the main problem I find in Dubai, the main problem I have amongst clients in Dubai is the man is providing very well financially. Dubai, praise be to God, is a place where if you want to make a lot of money,
you can.
It's totally up to you. How much money you make, I don't mean to be ignorant because it does depend on your background and stuff,
100%.
but generally speaking, you can make a lot of money. So the men create a lifestyle where women don't have to work. No worries. And she gets all the money. No worries.
Yeah.
The problem becomes where he makes her life very easy in the form of nannies, daycare, drivers, someone to cook. And she doesn't do anything to make his life easier.
Right.
So there is no cooking for him anymore. There is no checking if he's hungry or if he's